Well, we've already gone live, but yeah, no one wants to hear about your murderous rampage this morning. A very good morning to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in again to the Free Streaming School. It's lovely to have you all with us. We're doing a range of lessons today. I'm joined as ever by my wonderful colleague, Nisha. Nish, very good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, no complaints, no complaints. You're just saying you haven't rested well this morning. Something's got onto your skin instead of under your skin. It's a comedy moment beyond compare, Nish. A comedy moment beyond compare.
I was screaming.
So what have we got in store for us today?
So today we have drama, PE, science, something else I will check. Drama, PE, science, Spanish, and then ESL.
Something else. That's brilliant. That's exactly the kind of thing that we used to do in school. Today's students, we're going to be doing something, and something else.
Do with something.
Yeah. Well, I know most of you are expecting to see the wonderful Mr. Action Jackson with us today, but as you know, if you were with us yesterday, he was in a situation that is a very, very, very blessed situation to be in. He is going to be, hopefully, or the next couple of days, he's having a baby. So he's taking kind of a paternity leave from us for a couple of days. But today, obviously, because of all the excitement he would have had yesterday, he has not recorded a lesson for us. So this morning, bearing in mind that we're mainly set up for students, one of the items that we're going to put up and ready for you is some study tips, because we have had one of our colleagues, the wonderful John Tate, prepare a range of materials for us. And so the first one we're going to have today is going to be looking at a range of study tips. Now, the videos are available also on the website. Nish, while I set it up, would you mind just reminding people of the website and different items, sharing your screen and taking them through that, and then I'll take the screen back?
Yeah. Let me get it up. Cool.
And I love it when you forget to do something. It makes me so happy. Forgot to share your screen first thing in the morning. I'm like, yes, today is a winning day. Today is the winningest day there could ever have been.
All right, cool. So the streaming school website is guideeducation.co.uk and then /free streaming school. If you just go to Guide Education as well, it is right at the top for you to click on. And then you can see where we stream over here. Lovely video of Leon. And all the teachers that are involved in this as well.
It's so funny. Anyone who's watched me on one of these videos is like, oh, yeah, it seems like a normal. You watch me on that video, like, hello, everyone.
I mean, you can tell by the suit.
Say again?
You can tell by the suit.
Yeah, pretending to know what I'm doing as ever, as literally as ever. All right, brilliant. Yeah. So I've got the video queued up. I believe I've got the technological ability to pick and share that screen. So here goes. He says, oh, brilliant. So how's it coming through on the stream now, Nish? Have we got the wonderful John Tate before us?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So if I go full screen, is it still there?
It's just a bit behind you. Yep.
Fantastic. All right, brilliant. So in lieu, again, just to reiterate, in lieu of Mr. Action Jackson this morning, celebrating hopefully the birth of a wonderful child, we have Mr. John Tate giving you some study skills.
Hello and welcome to this Study Skills for Students whilst working from home video. In this episode, we're going to look at concentrating on creating your perfect study space so you can study effectively at home. This might sound quite simple, but it's actually quite complex to get it right, and there's lots of different features which I'm going to talk through one by one. Hopefully you can work towards those so you can create that perfect study space for you in your own home and in your own context. Okay, first of all, making sure, and this is a non-negotiable, that we have somewhere flat to work at. So this doesn't mean working on your knee, doesn't mean kind of grabbing a tray and working on your bed or anything like that. It's making sure you've got a flat space. So that usually means a desk or a table somewhere in your house, whether it's your bedroom or dining room table, somewhere flat that you can rest on, you can write, and you can lay everything else out on there. So it's really, really important that it's a flat space. Secondly then, wherever that space may be, now I talked about a bedroom or a dining room table, it's making sure that it's somewhere quiet where you can really focus and you're not going to be distracted by other things going on. So if that's your bedroom, that might be great. You can shut your door and you can have that real quiet, peaceful time to study. It becomes more problematic if it's a space in a communal area in the house, maybe the dining room table or something like that, where you've got other things going on in the hustle and bustle of the house, people talking, people trying to talk to you or communicate to you, and maybe a TV or some music on. And that really doesn't work. So it's about finding somewhere in your house that you can be on your own, or certainly not necessarily on your own, but undisturbed at a flat surface. Next is making sure that whenever you are at your desk or your flat surface, you've got a nice comfortable chair that's the right height. And when I talk about the right height, it's making sure that you are not too low, so you're having to reach towards your laptop or your pen and paper, or you're too high, so you're kind of crouching down back over your desk and straining your shoulders and things like that. And also the perfect kind of chair or accessory for this is some kind of a office or computer chair with a straight back, or maybe even a dining room table, dining room chair, should I say, with a straight back that lets you, sit properly with your shoulders back and be able to work nice without really, again, straining yourself over that. So it's really important. Also, making sure that it's not too much of a comfortable kind of slouch chair, because again, if you're in that, if you're kind of slouched back, you're probably thinking that you are more relaxed. So it's making sure we're in the right mindset and we've got a chair that's going to suit the desk or the flat surface in front of us. Next, it's making sure you've got all of the equipment that you need for the session ahead. Now, that might be a pen, pencil, it might be a calculator, a ruler, whatever it may be. But if you're thinking about what you're about to do, it's making sure that you've got everything you need. The last thing you want to do is get up in the middle of the session and kill your thought process, your flow, your rhythm, your focused mindset by having to go up and get something. And that also includes a drink or a snack. If you think you might need a drink, well, grab one before you start, get everything there. What do I need? Have I got everything in front of me? Paper, pens, rulers, calculators, everything I need, right? Everything's there set in front of me. I can now get off on the right foot for my session without having to get up 5 minutes later to go and get something. So that's something really easy, but something that lots of people forget and overlook sometimes, and having to get up makes it a really kind of messy situation. Okay, next, it's making sure that when you are sat at your desk, it's well lit, and this can be quite difficult for some people because depending on your room and where you're at, it can have limitations. And to start with, it's making sure that you've got, for lots of people, that might just mean a desk lamp or a little spot lamp, something like that, to light the area. The problem with this sometimes is that that artificial light can still strain your eyes, especially if you're sat in a dark room and it's in the evening or night time and you've got a little spot lamp on your desk. Then that can be quite, over a longer period of time, can start to strain your eyes, make you more fatigued, and you then can't really focus as much as you want to. So it's thinking about how can we bring some natural light in. And depending where your work surface is, you might have the ability or the option of moving things around in your bedroom. If your desk is the perfect solution, if your desk is near some normal daylight, so that might be a window where you can have some light flooding in and creating a nice, well-lit study space. But there are two things to think about here. Try to make sure, if you can, that the daylight is coming from either behind you or the side of you. And the reason that is because if you've got your desk right in front of your window, the problem that happens is all that light is coming in straight to your face and to your eyes. If it becomes bright, it can become too bright sometimes, and you then start squinting. You have to draw the curtains or pull the blinds, so that doesn't work. If it's coming behind you, then it's perfect because it's not getting in your eyes and it's also lighting the space in front of you, which is great. The second thing that's problematic with having your desk in front of a window is that also you might get distracted by what's outside. So if you're downstairs somewhere, people are walking past on the pavement, or things are happening, or you look at the trees, or whatever it may be, looking out of a window can distract you. So the best thing to do is have it facing a wall with some light coming behind you, maybe a couple of artificial lights as well to make sure it's really well lit, and then you're not distracted and you've got the perfect light coming in at the same time. So those are my quick study tips for creating the perfect study space. Hopefully, if you work towards those, or if you get all of those done, then you'll be able to have and create a really effective study space in your own home that lets you study whenever you need to at home.
Brilliant, and we thank John very much for that. We'll be back in one.
Hello and welcome to another
morning.
Good morning, Mr. Orban. How are you, buddy?
Fine, thank you, Mr. Haley. Morning, Nisha. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
A very good
Fine,
morning.
thanks. All right.
A very good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for bearing with us as we switch streams. It's one of the great things about technology that we're doing here. We try and switch between different things to see what's working because, as we all have learned in this period, technology is temperamental at best. So we've actually had to go between two different things. So forgive me for not saying good morning as soon as you jumped in, Mr. Robin. You know, it's always such a pleasure to see you. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Excited about the session.
Yeah, we're all excited to have you on, buddy. We're all excited to have you on. I was researching a lot the item that you mentioned yesterday, and I could see some of the arguments about why the attainment gap would really struggle with an extended period of time. There are. It is really interesting actually, because obviously I had my assumptions and presumptions, and then I went and had a look, and I realized actually, hold on a minute, there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye.
And the EEF stuff that's come out as well about they reckon the gap's going to be big. I tend to listen to what they say. They seem to have their head screwed on quite well. So if the Education Endowment Foundation say it, I sort of don't worry about whether it's true or not. I take it as read. I just accept anything blindly that they tell me.
Well, it's good that we can have a faith in certain experts like that as well. So actually, Mr. Jackson's off to have a baby this morning, buddy.
Oh, wow, congratulations, him.
We say that, yeah, it's not him, obviously. His wife's doing all the hard work and keep just, that doesn't wash in 2020, does it, Gary?
No, so you'll give him 2 weeks off and then back to it.
But yeah, he's taking a couple of days and we'll go from there. But yeah, we should have you doing the morning motivations. You're one of the most cheery people I know.
Oh, I don't know. Spending all the time with my kids at the moment. Test that now, I'm only joking. They're wonderful. But no, it's... I think I'll just stick to this. Thanks, Lewis.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, the floor is yours, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thanks ever so much. And good morning, everyone. And thanks for joining us. This is the 8th lesson that I've done on GCSE, really GCSE drama. But I hope also if you're in Year 9 thinking about preparing for GCSE, this is useful to you. Or if you've done your GCSE, doing some A-level study and want to just keep things ticking over and revisit some of the basics, I hope this is useful also. Previous videos have looked at acting and directing, and we started a series of videos now looking at designing. And I made the point yesterday that whatever your exam board, however much you love acting or directing, you will have to write some questions about designing. You won't have to do any practical design, but in your written exam, you'll certainly need to be able to write well and know the key vocabulary, know the key concepts about lighting, sound, costume, makeup, set props. And so that's what we're trying to take you through in this series of videos now. So yesterday we did a sort of beginning to look at an overview of design and what it means, what it is, and then started to talk about lighting design in particular. And that's what I'll go into a bit more detail today. It's a more key vocabulary around lighting, helping you to consider what stage lighting is and what your options are as a lighting designer. Okay, we'll have a PowerPoint up in just about 1 second. Here we go. There we are. So today we're talking about how to write about stage lighting. So we'll go firstly into some of the key terms and things, and then go into writing about it. So this is a little quote from stageelectrics.co.uk. Stage lighting isn't just a simple matter of illumination. It's about using light in a way that enhances what's on the stage and creates the right mood for each component of the story. And choosing the correct lighting positions and the right mix of colours is the easiest way to achieve both. So it's not just about turning the lights on. It's not just about whether it's bright enough for everything to be seen. You're going, oh, they're on the stage left now, so turn the lights on over there. It's about using light in a way that helps that creative vision to happen. It helps that message to be given to the audience. And as it says here, it creates the right mood for each component of the story. Okay? And there's two of the variables you have as a lighting designer, your lighting positions and the colours. More on that shortly. That's from stageelectrics.co.uk. And I showed yesterday an exam question, as a designer, explain your ideas for lighting within this extract, and talked about the importance of interpretation. There is no one way to light, for example, the witch's scene from Macbeth. There are infinite ways, and you as a lighting designer, as long as you can justify it, the floor is yours to do something exciting. We showed yesterday all these productions being Macbeth as an example of all the different ways as a designer you can think about one same production. We talked about design generally yesterday. If we think about this in terms of lighting, So you've got in this bottom left one here, lots of blues and greens, really, and this is the witches scene. So you can imagine the blues and the greens create a sort of idea that it's nighttime with the blue, and also that these creatures are from another world. They're mystical beings in some way, these witches. The blue and the green, really they've used colour to help create that effect there. And then I think they must have projected something to create that moon effect on the top there. That's really quite spectacular, I think. We talked about the importance of the reds here. That's most likely a white cloth that they have lit above the stage. And then again here, where I imagine in this production, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth sit on the raised level upstage centre, and there's either a red curtain or it's lit with a red light. I'm not sure, but I suspect it's lit with a red light, in which case they're on that raised level, so they're very, very important. Red, showing that something is wrong, something is missing. If you see the lighting here, think about what they've chosen to light. So they've really, presumably, Lady Macbeth, that we see the back of, putting the crown on Macbeth's head. She's there being, I think that's a symbolic way of showing that she's in charge of him, really. She's leading him to make the decision. And you see they've really lit her back and the crown. And the characters standing behind them are in semi-darkness. The man over to the right is in semi-darkness. So they've really thought about what they are lighting there. And then, they've used a lot of white light down here. And then again up in this corner, they've got the interesting thing here, I think, is the very, it's very well lit in the bottom half of the picture, but the top half of the picture in darkness there. So perhaps when that part of the stage is used, they're using a different lighting state to light that area. So they can block off different areas of the stage, depending on which part of the stage is being used. And we also looked at Hedda Gabler there, how in the same set we've got 3 different colours to show the different things that are going on there, using whites, using yellows, and using greens. Okay, so really focus on colour there to show different, large different points of the play, and really the different moods of this central character, Hedda Gabler. Okay, and we talked about how step 1 is working out what you want to say or what you want to show. So as a lighting designer, I want to show that. And this is vital. I've told you before that often in my essays from my A-level students and GCSE students, they go straight into, let's have a red gel on this scene. I'd like this particular prop or this bit of set, without starting by going why. And that's far more important. Is as a lighting designer, I want to show that Macbeth's state of mind is not balanced. Or as a lighting designer, I want to show that the witches are totally rational and clear thinking. Whatever you want to do, but you need to be clear about what you're trying to say. Which design element? Well, in this case, we're talking about lights. And then step 3, you've got to think then, what do I know about lights and what can lights show? Okay, so I've just added a few things in red here from yesterday's presentation. So colours, and the way you make different colours, mostly in lights, is through gels. More on those in a second. Positioning and angle. Where are your lights? Okay, and where are they in relation? Are they at an angle that's looking up from the floor to the actors, for example, or shining down, or from the left or the right? What types of lighting? We'll go through those in a second. And do you direct that light in a particular tightly focused area of the stage, or is it a wash across the whole stage? And you can use barn doors to create that effect. More on those in a second. And brightness, how dim or bright is it? And then over on the right-hand side, what can you show? You can show location, and I'll show you an example of a gobo in a minute. You can also use lights to create mood, to show that your production is naturalistic or non-naturalistic, abstract, to show whether we're inside or outside, and to show the time of day. Okay, so there are 2 types of bulbs, essentially, in stage lighting and in lights generally. Tungsten, which is bulbs you have in your house, tungsten bulbs. Bulbs that are used in standard stage lights are tungsten bulbs, but you can also have LED lights, these ones here, where you can see probably there that the one advantage really is about changing the colour on them without having to use different gels. And there are 4 types of lantern. Now, again, some of you will love theatre lighting, will have, you'll work closely with whoever it is in your school who does all the lighting for your school productions, and you might be assessed at GCSE or A-level for your lighting design in particular. I hope that I can offer something useful to you, but really the people I'm speaking to, I think here, are the vast majority of GCSE drama students who love acting or directing, usually acting, and need to know a bit about lighting, but aren't mad about it. Well, let me help you to learn a couple of things I mean, you can write about lighting confidently. You don't have to avoid those questions without needing to commit your life to lighting. So this is the first one here, profile spot, or you might call it a spotlight. So by changing your essay answer from saying spotlight to saying profile spot, what a small difference that by using that one term, it shows the examiner you've learned something. You sat up and listened when someone's talked to you about lighting. So a profile spot, but it's used as a spotlight. So it focuses on a particular person or thing on the stage, and it can be very specific on the stage. You can make it to focus really closely on someone's, an actor's upper body, let's say, or you can make it a wide thing that incorporates 2 or 3 actors. But it's less likely to be used in a naturalistic play. So you think normal lighting in a room, outside or wherever, doesn't have circles of light around you. So it's not naturalistic to use it, and you need to just think about that. If you've talked as a director about how naturalistic your production will be, you don't then talk about profile spots because they're not naturalistic unless you've got the moonlight shining in or something, which does happen to be a circle of light, perhaps. But ordinarily not naturalistic, but very useful for putting the focus on a particular character or set of characters in a non-naturalistic way. Right, this is a parcam, okay? Now, it's a general use lamp. So it's a lamp or a lantern. You can use it to push the light in an area of the stage that's not the whole stage. It's not as focused as a profile spot, like a spotlight, but it will shine light on an area, okay? And I'll talk about some of the things you can do with that light in just a moment. You can't change the size of the lens, so you can't make it go, actually, I'll make this one go over a broader area or a tighter area. You'd have to just use barn doors, which I'll talk about in a second, or just use 2 or 3 or 4 parcams to use to cover potentially one wall of the stage, if that's what you wanted to do. Okay, so it's a general use lamp called a parcam. Another one here is called a Fresnel. Now, again, if we're talking with people who aren't mad about lighting, don't totally love it, but need to feel confident about it. If you can talk about parcams or Fresnels, you're doing really well. It's spelled Fresnel, but you say Fresnel, okay? So it's less sophisticated than a parcam, but it has very similar features. It's got softer edges. You can focus the light on a Fresnel, but we don't need to worry too much. You can mention either parcams or Fresnels correctly, so they're not about creating light across the whole stage. They're not about just focusing in a really tight circle on one person, but they're sort of in the middle lighting. Like I need to light one area of the stage really well, and another part of the stage can be lit differently. Well, you could use parcams and Fresnels, or one or the other, in order to achieve that. Last type of light we're going to talk about is floodlights. So these throw light over a large area, as you can perhaps guess, not in a focused area. So its positioning on the stage depends whether or not it's naturalistic. So if you put a floodlight, you want to cast light over the whole stage, and you want it to do it in a way that casts long shadows over the stage. You put it on the floor, shine it into the actors' faces, and it will cast long shadows across the whole stage. That's not very naturalistic, really, because that's not a natural source of light, is it? Light doesn't naturally come from the floor. If you're outside, it comes from the sky. If you're inside, it comes from the ceiling or from a lamp. So it's not naturalistic, but it can create some cool effects. But if you put that floodlight from a lighting rig, so the metal bars on top of the stage, if you hang them from the lighting rig, then they would be naturalistic, because what would that floodlight represent? Well, it would represent sunlight if you're outside, or electric light if you're inside, if it's an internal scene. Now, this is how you create different colors, as you may have seen. These are called gels, okay, G-E-L-S. So if you want, we'll talk about LED bulbs, forget about those for a second. Most lights used in the theatre are still tungsten bulbs. So if you put a gel in front of the light, it's a white light that comes out. But if you put a little color of plastic really in front of it, then that creates the different color comes out of it, of course. And so why do you use different colors? Well, it can be used to show time of day. So blue for night, yellow for the middle of the day, perhaps, or mood. So it can show red, for example, we think of danger. Green, for example, we think of things being a bit creepy, a bit not quite right. So you can think about how color can be used for mood, and color can be used to show time of day as well. If your scene was happening at daybreak, first thing in the morning. You'd have some wonderful sort of oranges, wouldn't you? If it was sunrise, you'd have oranges and yellows, maybe some reds, and you would use gels to create that effect. Okay, barn doors. So these are those flaps that you can see there on the front of the light. You've got 4 flaps, and I think you can probably guess what those do, don't you? They direct the light. So if you want the light to go in a particular part of the stage, but not really to spill out to other parts of the stage, well, you could just point the light in the right direction. But these kind of lights, Fresnels, Parkins, they're not particularly focused on one area. So you could use barn doors to make that a bit more emphasized. If you wanted to light one flat, like one piece of wall that you had erected at the back of your stage, great. Use some barn doors to make sure it's exactly on that flat and it doesn't spill over to other parts of the stage. Okay, and then gobos. Gobos are great. So it's like a thin metal stencil. You see one here, and you place it inside the light. So is it into Parkins or Fresnels? One or the other or both, I forget, I have to say, but you put it inside a light that's not a floodlight, and you can, in fact, you can use it on a profile spot. And if you imagine shining light through that, it's going to create an effect on the stage, on the floor or the wall of the stage, when you put it on there. So if we look at this example here, that's a gobo of leaves. So if you imagine your scene is set in a forest and you had light shining through the trees onto your scene or that's taking place in the forest, you might want to show that the lights are shining in sort of through the trees, through the leaves, and you would use a gobo for that effect. You can also get snowflake gobos. If you go to a party or a club or something, you have something written on the walls in light. That would be them using a gobo. They'll have paid someone to make a stencil with perhaps their company's name on it, and then they put it inside the light, and then that would shine through onto the floor or onto the wall there. Okay, so you put it inside the lantern, and it's a stencil. It's called a gobo, and you can use it for certain quite cool effects there. Okay, we shall just play that again. And so then you need to write about lighting, of course. So we've talked about PE paragraph, a PE instructor as an actor and as a director, very similar as a designer. Let's have a look. So point, what do you want to communicate as a designer? Referring to a particular line or moment and a particular design element. So you want to say, I want to show, and what do you want to show as a designer? I want to show Macbeth's frailty, his vulnerability, okay, he's weak. In the moment when the witches are giving him the prophecy, particularly using a colour and positioning of the lights to achieve this. Okay, one sentence probably, and you make the point there about what you want to achieve and briefly how. And then you give your evidence there, and I'll give an example on the next slide. So how would you do this? And you describe your design, these colours, these positions of lights, etc. And then you explain. So just by why making this point is important for the production, that might not necessarily be closely linked to lighting. So you'll say, as it's important for me to show that Macbeth is weak because it foreshadows his downfall toward the end of the play, for example. Spoiler alert there. And then you analyse the impact it would have on the audience when you use the evidence above. So showing Macbeth's weakness would help the audience to see that actually he just follows others. Using colours or whatever evidence you talked about, using the colours in this way would be effective because people typically associate green with something that's a bit untrustworthy or a bit strange. So easier to see what I mean about PE with an example, which is what we have just here. So I'll read this out. My point: as a designer, I would like to use lighting to show the witches as creatures who are untrustworthy while they make the spell in Act 1, Scene 3. Okay, dead simple. I could add to that, if I wanted to achieve sort of grade 8, 9s at GCSE, I could just give a hint there of which bits of lighting I'm going to use. So I could say, particularly focusing on the colours and on using gobos to create, to indicate location or mood, perhaps. Okay, and then my evidence. So using parkans positioned on the floor. So I could have just said lights, but by just saying parkans, it shows, okay, this is a student, a candidate who knows what they're talking about. So using parkans positioned on the floor, downstage centre, again, using my theatre vocab, not just saying at the front, downstage centre, would create long shadows on the faces of the witches while they say the incantation, double, double, tickle, trouble. Specific then about which line, which moment in the play we're talking about. I would use red and green gels in front of these lights, it should say, in order to wash one corner of the stage with these colours. So I've just thrown in a couple of lighting terms there. Instead of saying I'd use green and red lights, I'm saying no, I'd use red and the lights aren't red and green. It's the light is, but it's the lanterns are not. It's the gels in front of the lanterns that turn the light red and green, and that's the point I'm making here. Okay. And then you explain it, okay? So long shadows on the flats of my set would give the impression that Macbeth is dwarfed by these characters, giving the impression that they can dominate and control him, an important sign of what is to come for Macbeth. So that bit of my explaining links back to my point that they're untrustworthy. Red and green lights would give an abstract feel to the scene, showing the audience that these are characters who should not be trusted. So that links back to my evidence there about the colours that I've chosen to use. Okay, so that's my PEE paragraph. I've managed to throw in some of the key vocabulary that I've talked about here. I don't consider myself someone, I consider myself someone who's had to learn, not reluctantly, but not naturally about lighting. Something that I've been around stages and drama and theatre and drama teaching long enough to pick some things up. And now I'm able to write a decent PEE paragraph about them and know what to say to someone who really does know about lighting design about a particular effect that I want. Okay, I don't consider myself someone who's deeply expert in stage lighting. But what I'm trying to say to you is, I don't think you need to be. Okay, you can do brilliantly, write a great PE paragraph by learning a handful of key terminology and then using it well, using it confidently, writing about it well. Just to finish up, a couple of links there. This first one's really cool. It's a nice video. It's a TED talk. It's not particularly about interacting, but it's about cool things you can do with lights, and it's worth watching. It's good fun. And the next one is a link that I put in yesterday's video to prepare us for next week's lessons, where we'll begin thinking about sound design. And a task, if you'd like to do one before next week, choosing either the banquet scene from Macbeth, which is Act 3, Scene 4, or a scene in a play you studied at school. Write a PEE paragraph about how you would use lighting to communicate your intentions to an audience. Okay, nice friendly lighting question there for you to have a go about the play that you studied at school, or from the banquet scene from Macbeth if you prefer. Okay, so next week we'll begin looking at sound, and then we'll continue our journey along different aspects of stage design. Camera back on. Here we go. Okay, so I hope it's been useful for everyone. A little introduction to the world of stage lighting and how to write about stage lighting. I look forward to our lessons next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Really, really appreciate it. But it's funny to think that there's an area that you don't feel you have mastery over. I thought that was really humble.
There's a long list. We can go on a long time.
not when it comes to drama, buddy. Surely.
Yeah, no, still one or two. But no, the point I'm making, I suppose, is I'm not talking to students as someone who's always loved and been passionate about stage lighting and the design elements of drama and theatre. But two things. One, you don't need to be an expert in all of them. You need to learn some things and be able to talk about this confidently. And number two, the exam boards require you to. You used to be able to avoid anti-GCSE drama. There'd always be an acting question I could choose. I'd avoid the makeup costume questions would be for someone else. I'd pick the acting option, and I'd be really happy about that. But you don't, quite rightly, you don't have that luxury nowadays. Right. Exam boards are a bit more rigorous about you learning breadth, learning a wide spectrum of things in any subject. And so they don't let you get away with going, I'll just write about acting. So learning about design is more important now than it was when I did my GCSEs. And so that's what I hope to support people with in these sessions.
Yeah, it's so interesting to get to speak to other teachers as well and see so many different lesson styles. I connected lesson and style there to bring layers. But styles and lessons and see like the different things, because different examples, different expectations, different changes, different pressures. You know, it's fascinating. Just kind of just goes to show why teachers really have to be, they have to try and master so many different things in actually what they're trying to do. Do you think people will appreciate teachers more after all this, Gary?
Well, I don't know. I think there's probably very mixed things, because I think there'll be a bit of, I think when the summer holidays come, if they come in the same way they normally do, it'll be quite strange. I think there'll be a bit of teachers just had, you know, a month or 2 or 3 months off, and now they've got 6 weeks off. I think there'll be a bit of that, to be honest. But I also think that other people are going, actually, it's just really hard for teachers. They're you know, trying to balance, like it's for anyone working from home. I think there's a bit more camaraderie probably between people who are all working at home. Kids are in another room. They are, you know, trying to share technology and trying to just make it work for everyone. And it's just a new normal. But it's I think with your help, Mr. Haley, you're providing a good service to people. So let's hope people all tune in.
Only through you guys, and all your efforts. I really, really appreciate it as ever, man.
No worries.
Brilliant. Well, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What's next for you, Mr. Haley?
I am going to be passing over full responsibility to Tanisha Hunja, which is 90% of what streaming school is for me, Gary.
Yeah, in safe hands. All right. Have a lovely day, both of you.
You too, buddy.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.
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 All yours, Nish.
All right, cool. So as Gary mentioned, here is the option task for drama today. It's choosing either the banquet scene from Macbeth or a scene in a play you have studied at school. Write a PEE paragraph about how you would use lighting to communicate your intentions to an audience. If you've missed out on any of the drama sessions or on any other sessions that we have, you can find them on Facebook and on YouTube with all links to any resources and tasks on there as well. Up next, we have PE.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I will see you in 20 minutes.
Yep, see you in 20 minutes.
Bye.